was happening throughout the territory, but actually also the message of the Holy Spirit. And this weekend is obviously very significant in the church, and that it's Pentecost weekend. And tomorrow we will gather as the birthday of the church, the day that the Holy Spirit came. I want to bring some words. I'm going to have to put this down a bit, so I'm not quite as tall as Bobby. I want to bring some words from the Book of Acts. You'll know these words, I guess, very well. I want to remind you of them. And these words will be read in many churches tomorrow, and will be the focus of preaching and teaching. But let me remind you of what is written in Acts chapter 10. When the day of Pentecost came, they were all together in one place. Suddenly a sound like the blowing of a violent wind came from heaven and filled the whole house where they were sitting. They saw what seemed to be tongues of fire that separated and came to rest on each of them. All of them were filled with the Holy Spirit and began to speak in other tongues as the Spirit enabled them. That marvellous event, that life-changing event, was the catalyst that birthed the message and the ministry of the church around the world. It's the fundamental point at which Christ chose his people and anointed them for ministry. I read the story of a man who was at an international airport, and he was worried about missing his plane. His watch wasn't working properly, and so he stopped this other person in the airport terminal who was walking through the airport terminal with two large suitcases, and he said to the man, can you just tell me the time, please? And the man says, oh, sure, of course I can. He put down his two suitcases. He looked at his watch, and he said to the man who was asking the time, it's 6:08 p.m, the temperature is 75 degrees Fahrenheit, the barometric pressure is 30.19 and is falling. Rain is predicted. The barometric pressure in Madrid is 31.2 and the sky is clear. And the man was quite taken aback by this. And I said, where did you get a watch like that? He says, well, actually, I invented this watch, and it does so many other things as well. And the man who was worried about running late for his plane, he thought, I want one of those watches. He had a little bit of money in his pocket, and he said, I'll give you £50 for that watch. And the man says, oh, I don't think I can part with that watch. He says, well, how about £100? And the man that owned the watch thought about it for a minute and said, no. It took me a long time to develop this watch and put it together. I don't think I could sell it for that. And the man said, okay, here's my final offer, £200 for the watch. And the man who owned the watch stopped for a moment and said, well, actually, yeah, I could do with the money, so I'll sell the watch. So he exchanged the £200, he got the watch, and he's looking at it and he's very proud of it. He's about to walk away, and the man said, oh, just wait a minute, and handed him the two suitcases, and he said, here's your batteries. Of course, watches nowadays don't need that. Although if you remember the very early mobile telephones, there was a bit like that, wasn't it? You had to have a course in Charles Atlas to be able to lift one of the things. But that's a very funny story. Of course it is, a very silly story. But actually it speaks about the importance of power, doesn't it? And I think sometimes we're guilty in the church of trying to do things on our own strength. Certainly that's been my experience. And those times when I've done that, I've fallen flat in my face. We need the power of God's Holy Spirit to come in us and through us and out of us into the communities in which we minister. Of course, our world today is very much about power, political power. We only have to see what's happening with the Scottish Government and the Westminster Government. Political power, there's a clamour for power in our world today. And our world needs the power of the Holy Spirit. Our communities need the power of the Holy Spirit. If you don't believe that, you just have to turn on the news or open your newspaper and you'll see that the world today needs God's Holy Spirit. Let me just give you some statistics to think about this evening on this Pentecost Eve. Here's some statistics from the Roundtree Foundation, nothing to do with chocolate. It's a research group, and they said this. Last year, the suicide rate in the UK was 576 men and 215 women, a marked increase in previous years. The British Humanist Association has now launched a campaign to have religious school assemblies banned in UK schools. In previous year, there were 13,183 alcohol-related deaths in the UK, a steady increase on previous years. When one UK citizen dies every 48 minutes due to war somewhere in our world today, those are staggering statistics, aren't they? And no matter what strategies governments or authorities have, the world needs God's Holy Spirit. The world needs you and I to do our part. And one of the messages that's going to come very clearly to the young people that will gather for summer school is that God can not only transform your life, but can transform the lives of those who are your friends and colleagues and people that you go to college and university with. Friends, I just want to encourage you this evening and really just challenge you, and do experience God's Holy Spirit in your life. It's not some kind of out there thing. It can be a very personal thing, as a lady sang, as the band have proclaimed through music. It can be an inner experience that changes lives. And so I just challenge you this evening to allow God's Holy Spirit to come to you. And if you want to know more about it, come and ask us. Or just a simple prayer in your heart to God. Lord, just make yourself known to me. And I guarantee the Lord will answer you. Thank you for listening. And my prayer goes with you not only for this evening, but tomorrow, wherever you are. If you're in worship, allow God's Holy Spirit to minister to you. I pray. God bless you.